So it's 2020 and people still hate on the Irate Gamer because nobody seems to know how to let shit go.
Come on, guys, it's 2020. It's current year. Haven't you guys given up on the past? Yeah, Hyrule, that's not really going to happen, and I don't think that it should ever happen. Just because time passes doesn't mean that we can't bring up something that has affected the community, whether that be good or bad. And in your case, lying about having lupus, well, people are going to always remember that because they know what type of person that you are, no matter if you change or not.
Now, for those of you who don't know the Irate Gamer, he is a YouTuber who was doing angry style game reviews, which was made popular by the angry video game nerd. And yes, he did copy a lot of things from AVGN, which he was rightfully criticized and ridiculed for it. But then a decade goes by and now a lot of people have moved on essentially.
Yes, Hyrule people have moved on. But since the Irate Gamer is back, and he's pretty much made it known that he used to be caught plagiarizing angry video game nerd videos, then yeah, that's kind of cringe that he would bring that up, especially since people would have, forgotten otherwise, or they probably would just, keep bringing it up, and he could have chose to ignore it. But instead he didn't, and he called it out front and center, so yeah, people are gonna know.
Well, except for one person, and that is, of course, Prince Mario.
No, I think you went out of your way to find Mario, and I think that he's just one of the only people, and you only went after him because he doesn't have that much clout.
Who's made multiple videos on the Irate Gamer. And I happened to leave a comment on one of those videos, which I say the following.
For your sanity and my own, I'm just going to go ahead and leave this up on the screen while I vent a little bit. So, Pirate Canvas is someone that used to make commentary-style videos under a bunch of different names. Dustin Makes Vids, or Rawgasm, whatever the hell that means. And he started making videos in the commentary community. And he did get people pretty pissed off in that community as well. He started a thing called ImageGate. You can pretty much read about this on the commentary wiki of people that don't like me. But you can read over that. It's there. But after he got done getting essentially kicked out, I don't really know if he got kicked out or not, who knows, he started doing everything else, anime reviews. So he tried to capitalize on people and anime for money, which is, it's a thing. And my first encounter with him was on my Neo Yokio video. And because of that, that's how I had my interactions with Hyrule. And then he started to shift his content a little bit more towards my neck of the woods. So instead of doing anime stuff, it was more about commentary stuff again, which I think is probably why the commentary community doesn't like me. But that's just where we are now. So Hyrule calling out other people, it's kind of funny, especially given the events afterwards.
Now here's the thing, I'm not saying the Irate Gamer is the greatest YouTuber ever, and that the criticisms against him weren't warranted at the time, because they certainly were.
So what is the problem, Hyrule?
However, over time, it just became nothing more than a personal attack on the guy, which perpetuates even to this day, because people like Prince Mario want to keep pretending that it's 2009.
So Hyrule, when is it ever appropriate to talk about anything? So if people pretend that it's 2009 all over again, or whenever you're saying that it is, when is it ever appropriate to bring it up? Can I only talk about something that happened a week ago, like that last week? Can I talk about it next week? I mean, because the Irate Gamer was caught plagiarizing content, yeah, people are going to call him out for that. And if he's trying to come back and people are still skeptical that he might be doing the same thing, then that's perfectly normal. We've seen patterns like this before, especially if it were someone like you in your case, since you're trying to come back into the scene of being a YouTuber. Even just in such a case, it's still kind of skeptical to me that you have actually changed. Your actions haven't really proved that, and especially this video trying to shit on another content creator by the name of, what is his name again? Holy shit, Prince Mario. You can't do that, dude. Everyone knows who you are now. It's out there.
Despite so many people who have moved on past the drama, including the parties that were involved.
So Hyrule, which I don't think you understand because you didn't research this video thoroughly enough, but essentially the Irate Gamer in his latest video, if you watched it, if you bothered to try to defend someone, he tried to reference Angry Video Game Nerd in the fact that he was caught plagiarizing and kind of stealing the jokes. So he tried to change it up, and he even brought out his detractors front and center. So I don't think that they've truly moved on, especially when Irate Gamer is one of the only people bringing it up.
And seriously, if you want to blame anyone for why the Irate Gamer became popular, blame YouTube.
That's right. Blame YouTube. Blame big corporation for making person popular. Blame this music station for making this musician popular. That's kind of... What the fuck does that even... What does that have any place in this conversation?
They were the ones that featured him. They decided to go with him. And that's how all this drama even started in the first place.
Wait a minute. What?
Because people got upset over the fact that the Irate Gamer got featured on YouTube and he quickly rose to the top.
I rule. Not everybody that gets featured and gets a lot of subscribers are necessarily good content creators. There's people that I know that pour their heart and soul into being one of the best channels that they can be, and they don't have nearly that many subs. And then you have people like Colt Eastwood with 100,000 subscribers, and all he does is spread misinformation all the time about PCs being bad. So that doesn't mean anything. Clout is not truly important. It doesn't really matter, and numbers don't matter either. But unfortunately for you, you're going to bring this up again near the end of this video, which I don't know how long that is going to be, but it's going to be stupid.
And that he became chastised and hated by everyone. People calling him a ripoff, despite the fact that there are plenty of YouTubers that were doing the exact same thing.
And were those YouTubers criticized? Were they also not big channels? Answer me one of those two questions.
They were ripping off James, yet they never got any of the backlash that the Irate Gamer ever got.
You know, Hyrule, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, because I know at some point you're going to see this video, you're going to stop by, and you're going to leave a comment. So go ahead and answer me the question to this thing. Just give me some kind of clarity. So, did those people get any subscribers from that? Did they become famous like Irate Gamer? If the answer is no, then what's the point of any of this argument? If the answer is yes, who are they? Give me some examples. Maybe you can enlighten us on all of that. But I don't think that you can, because it's not true.
So in the end, this drama was about pettiness, selfishness, and just jealousy.
But you just said it was because people were mad at him for rising to the top.
So that's why I say that both parties were in the wrong. And yet nobody wants to admit that.
Because both parties weren't in the wrong. Irate Gamer was plagiarizing and stealing content, going under sock puppet accounts, so that way he could combat his detractors from showing up in his comments and giving him any type of criticism, and to the point that he was striking videos, flagging them down, because he didn't like the mean things that they said.
But that is the fact of the matter, and it's time to fucking grow up and move on with life.
Oh yeah, Hyrule, have you apologized to literally any of the people that you just did wrong when you lied about having lupus and just stole their money? Have you apologized to any of those people? Have you grew up yet? I don't think Dairo's gotten the message. I don't think Tipster has either.
Because if all you're doing is focusing on the Irate Gamer and everything he does, then you seriously have problems. And you probably don't have a life at all.
If you're so obsessed with this fucking guy, go to his fucking stream to talk about him. It's disrespectful to flood someone else's stream and have everything you talk about is another person. Oh, this, all that. Like, it's this weirdo lolcow culture. Alright, lolcow, however the fuck you say it. It's a weirdo culture. It's a bunch of fucking no-life idiots who fucking get into this culture. Who your life fucking sucks shit. So what you gotta do is find someone who you think that their life sucks too, so that you can make fun of them constantly so you feel better about yourself.
And some word of advice to you, Prince Mario, never insult the people that are criticizing you, because let's just say things won't end well for you, Irate Gamer.
Wait, is he talking to Prince Mario now, or is he talking about Irate Gamer? I don't... is he talking to both of them? Did I miss something somewhere?
And yes, you can gloat about how you have 5,000 subscribers and that you're better than me, yet...
So, Hyrule, I looked up and down, left and right throughout that entire video, throughout his entire comment section, and I didn't see where he was insulting you for not having as many subs as him. Where did that happen?
Your production value doesn't reflect that.
Imagine caring about production value, but your floating head sits there with a background that you probably stole from Google Images, and you're gonna shit on this guy for at least attempting to give you some form of entertainment. But just don't worry about it. Remember, he's the one shitting on you for not having as many subs, remember? Which hasn't happened. I couldn't find it.
And I have better production value than you do, despite the fact that I have less subscribers.
Hyrule, you're bringing up numbers. You're bringing up production value. He hasn't insulted you. He didn't even insult the irate gamer.
Which, the number of subscribers and views you get don't mean a damn thing.
Then why did you bring it up, Hyrule? We go through this fucking song and dance like almost every year, it seems like now, where everybody has more subscribers than you. You bring up how many more subscribers they have than you, but they're the ones punching down on you, right?
It doesn't mean that you are beyond criticism. And it doesn't mean that people are haters. It just means that they disagree with you, and that's that.
You got so butthurt when I made that video about you that was talking about Crunchyroll, and obviously we hate Crunchyroll in these parts, but you got so upset that I made the video about you, criticizing how you were very cringe, that you were threatening to take down the video, and then you said that, well, I hope that my partner people don't find out and try to take it down, and I told you that we will just wait and see about that, wouldn't we? So, what the hell is this?
The fact that you're bringing up O-drama like this just tells me a lot about you. That you are a man-child, and that you don't know how to take criticism.
Dude, you got ass blasted that Sean brought you up in a video of his.
Because it's criticism that makes you a better person. But nevertheless, I'm gonna end the video by saying, life is too short to hang on to grudges. And that no human being is perfect. Not even you, Prince Mario.
Not even you, Hyrule.
This has been Pirate Canvas signing off. I'll see you in the next video.
What's up, gamers? Dreamcast Guy here, talking today about Nintendo because, to be perfectly honest, I'm a little bit frustrated.
Maybe we can deal with those frustrations together.
Now, this video is completely unscripted. Sometimes before I turn on the camera, I like to try and write out some thoughts, try and get my mental faculties in order. But I just want to talk. I just want to be just brutally honest with you guys because I am a little bit annoyed.
Don't worry, rant videos usually work out for the better. Oh, that's right.
So, yesterday, we randomly got the announcement that today we are going to be having a Nintendo Direct Mini. This was going to be a series of third-party developers getting a chance to show what they're working on.
Yes, that's exactly how they marketed it. It was supposed to be a event where they showed off the third-party games, and they were already previously announced, including the, spoiler alert, Shin Megami Tensei 5.
It was 8 minutes long, and it revealed a bunch of poo-poo.
You know, usually there's a build-up. Whenever someone makes a bad video or a bad rant, usually that takes a little bit of time. But this one, we get it right here at the start.
For the most part, it was basically stuff like DLC for Cadence of Hyrule. Okay, that's pretty cool. That game was a nice surprise last year. There's a wrestling game coming out for in case you're into wrestling, and they did show some cool stuff for Shin Megami Tensei.
Why is this reaction this way? So people pretty much got the things that I guess they wanted. Cadence of Hyrule is a fun game that people enjoyed. And I guess the WWE thing, I mean, there's people that do like wrestling. It's a very niche thing nowadays, but people still enjoy it. And Shin Megami Tensei 5 was already previously announced. It has a huge following, and it's also the main storyline to the Persona series. So what exactly about this is bad?
My issue is that 2020 is so bizarrely silent from Nintendo. Now, think about it. Literally, close your eyes right now and imagine 5 good games that are coming to the PlayStation 4 this year. Think of some games that are coming to the PlayStation 5. Even try and picture some stuff that came out this year for the Xbox. Think about the fact that at least we got Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which is actually a masterpiece, even if nobody's talking about it.
So I guess that we're just going to throw away the pandemic that's happening, the global pandemic, because that affects a lot of companies, and a lot of people just can't go to their offices because they're closed because, they have to clean everything pretty regularly. And of course, social distancing is also a thing. So I don't expect a company to be on top of their shit whenever there's a global pandemic. Now, in certain regards, Nintendo may just not have been prepared for the pandemic, but Sony and Microsoft probably were. Those games have been in development for years.
What are we getting from Nintendo? We got Animal Crossing, and we got Paper freaking Mario.
So you listed 2 games that came out by Nintendo and only one for Microsoft, but apparently Nintendo's just not doing all that great?
I guess I'm in a space now where I want to be excited for my Nintendo Switch again. So here's my thing. Here is my point of view.
It took us some getting, but I guess we're finally to the point of the video.
I buy a lot of video games. If you see behind me, there's literally my collection of thousands and thousands of video games. And to me, one of the best feelings is getting a chance to be excited for that next big project, sitting down with a new game and then beating it. I love the experience of just always having new cool stuff to experience.
So in other words, you just want to consume product and then get excited for next products?
And Nintendo, what's always frustrated me, and I've been saying this for years, is that they're so obsessed with silence. They want to make sure that they keep every detail completely hidden and completely under wraps until the game is basically complete. And now we're in a position where I have no idea what I'm supposed to be playing on my Switch this year.
I'm going to go on my own little mini rant here because I feel like you're missing the entire point of your own argument. Because Nintendo doesn't want to tell you everything that they're doing and everything that they're working on, that doesn't mean that your console, your little bing bing wahoo machine, doesn't have any value. In fact, I would say it's the opposite. With Nintendo always coming out with new experiences like a Metroid Prime 4 that they have to completely redo, I think that you have that to look forward to. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is coming out. That's a major game, especially with the remaster for 3. So I would say that there's plenty of games for you to play. Now, in the regards that you want to consume product, no one's stopping you. There's plenty of games on the Nintendo Switch. I don't know if you choose to play any of them, but there's a good couple. Instead of looking for reasoning that Nintendo is being silent and saying, well, they're just not going to bring out any games for my Nintendo Switch, I guess I hate them now. Instead of doing that, you can, just play the games that are there that you haven't beat. I know you haven't beaten every single one of those thousands of games that you're bragging about. And also, Animal Crossing is a game with no ending. Make your village look good. You have plenty of people that are subbed to your channel, have them visit it. Which, by the way, I'll open up my village thing soon, my island. That way everyone can visit.
And you know what? So this is my Nintendo Switch Mini. I have a couple Nintendo Switches, and I've got my Switch Mini here.
It's a Nintendo Switch Lite, but I'm just nitpicking here.
My issue right now is what's kind of bizarre to think about. You can see my Switch is actually booting up right now. My Switch Mini is booting up right now. Do you know why that is? It's because I haven't turned this thing on in months.
So where do you play the majority of your games again? I don't think you've told us. Instead, you're just showing us a Switch Lite because reasons? You said you had multiple ones, so are those not plugged in as well?
I'm not sure I even have it charged, to be perfectly honest with you, just because we're at a point now where everything I have just plays on my Nintendo Switch, and that's usually just indie games. There is no reason to be hyped for Nintendo Switch right now, and I guess I'm disappointed about that because this used to be my most hyped console.
I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of games on the Nintendo Switch. Do you need a new one every, month? Do you need one every 2 weeks? I don't know what the time set that you want it to be is. So there's games that are on the Switch that I have myself. I haven't beaten all of them because, I just I'm always busy doing this or sleeping. But I can assure you that my Switch stays charged and I still have games to play. Plenty of games to play.
Like, Nintendo, let me just break things down. You're probably working on a bunch of huge, giant, amazing secret things.
Do you guys remember when this was supposed to be about a Nintendo Direct Mini? A thing to show off previously announced games? The thing that was, was to show off the partner stuff. So, not necessarily first-party titles. So if he's not looking for first-party titles, then there's dozens of them on the Nintendo Switch. If he's looking for first-party titles, just wait until the next one. That's what I don't get about the Nintendo stands, is that whenever there is a Direct announced, they always think that it has to focus on unannounced titles, like a new F-Zero game or a Xenoblade 3. Not all of those games have to be made. I assure you, they don't.
But give us some hints. Give us a reason to still care about this system in 2020.
You're one of the only few people that are actually upset about owning a Nintendo Switch in 2020, when, for the most part, people have been pretty excited to play theirs. Animal Crossing being one of the biggest titles that you can play for the Nintendo Switch right now. There's still plenty of Smash Brothers players. They're doing their own thing over there. But I don't see the issue.
Is there going to be a new Pokemon Let's Go? Are we going to get a chance to see some gameplay for Doom Eternal? I mean, are you going to maybe be doing some crazy paid DLC for Animal Crossing at some point?
Why the fuck would you ever advocate for paid DLC for Animal Crossing? You must... Oh my god. You know what? Sorry. I was going to say the thing, but I'm not.
Nintendo has just realized, no matter what, we're going to be silent. And this code of silence, this obsession with secrecy, is now hurting the brand.
Says who? Random YouTuber number 2,300,000 something? Nintendo's not hurting, I assure you. Nintendo's doing alright. It took only 6 weeks for Animal Crossing to reach 13.4 million sales total. That's a lot. But the point is that Nintendo doesn't have to tell you everything that they're working on. They could say, oh, we're not going to make any major announcements until next year. But obviously, from a business standpoint, they're not going to do that because that's stupid. But they're not required to tell you if they're going to make a new Let's Go game for Pokemon. They're not required to show you anything about Bayonetta 3. They're not required to do any of those things that you say. In fact, they're a company with their own interest. And I'm not saying that we should necessarily believe blindly what the company says, but I think I'll take their word over it rather than yours. It's just, I don't know why you would have to be so upset about, oh, well, they're hurting, they're damaging their brand. The people that say that are usually fanboys for a product. And when the fanboys don't stop, they end up hurting themselves more than the company that they champion for.
I am a dedicated fan. I'm somebody that enjoys buying your stuff, that enjoys staying up till midnight, who sometimes goes onto the Australian eShop to pay $80 for a game just to get it one day early.
We've seen this upsetting trend. I don't know why fanboys do this, but you don't. You could just wait a day. I mean, that's just the thing you can do. But also, that's really kind of weird. So if you are one of those people that happens to go to the Australian or the New Zealand marketplaces to get a game early, I mean, to each their own. But you are a dedicated fan, there is no doubt. But I don't understand why you have to say that Nintendo is dying because they didn't show you games, and you said that they were poo-poo, but then went on to explain how, individual they are. So you're just someone that either hates the things that you were shown and you want new big AAA games, or you don't care about any of those things because you just want to spend money frivolously.
I want to hear about new projects. And at this point, I'll be just brutally rough here. I don't even hear about indie games coming as much to the Switch.
Because we're in a global pandemic, you fucking wheelchair symbol.
Because a lot of these companies and stuff now seem like they're trying to drop things first on PS4 and then later on Switch.
So one plastic box gets it before the other one? I mean, I don't see that as a problem, exclusives exist because consoles can't get away from them. They have to be able to sell their shiny, matte finished whatever. And that's perfectly fine. But also, the games may be easier to develop for on the PlayStation, for example, rather than the Nintendo Switch. So I wouldn't be upset if your Bing Bing Wahoo machine can't actually run it. So just give them some time. They'll get it done.
The fact that you guys decided to do this direct, like, let me just put up here on my other monitor instead of my, like, voice lines.
This is probably the most childish thing I've seen all week. And I watched a man complain about Halo 3 being dropped on the PC 12 hours early.
8 minutes and 13 seconds. 8 minutes and 13 seconds. And you couldn't even be bothered to show us more than Shin Megami Tensei.
It seems like the word mini just kind of escapes you, doesn't it?
And what's crazy is you didn't show us Bayonetta 3, which could have been here. You didn't show us any giant reveals. You didn't show us gameplay for Final Fantasy. There's so much stuff that is just not being talked about. And at this point, I would be hungry for scraps.
You see, the problem here, Dreamcast guy, is that you did get scraps, but you're complaining and you're being ungrateful for the scraps that you did get. I mean, I think that's a pretty banger lineup that they showed off today for a miniature event.
Where is GameCube Virtual Console?
The word mini must really escape you. But also, this was supposed to be for partners, not first-party stuff.
Where is a reason to love Nintendo Switch Online? Where's some new giant thing for Splatoon? Like,
it's right there. Look at the tweet. It's right there. It says for partners. It's for the partner announcements, the partner stuff, not first party. I mean, you may still cling to the hope of a Dreamcast mini, but this is real life here, buddy.
The fact that I can film a video that's now 5 minutes long, listing off all the things we haven't seen without even just thinking about it, it shows that Nintendo is, at this point, I feel like they've kind of given up on 2020.
There's a reason that you're known as the person that you are. It's because you continuously go online and you cry about being the victim of literally everything. That's why you rallied against people like Griffin Gaming who were calling out your super volcanic takes, if you will, and you got upset. You effectively got him yeeted off of the platform of Twitter, which I'm sure he's probably grateful. You know, it's Twitter's fucking cancer.
I really wish what they would do is just at least give us a peek at the future, like something they did a long time ago. Maybe you're a newer Nintendo fan. I occasionally talk to subscribers where the Nintendo Switch is their first console. What they did with Project NX, which became the Nintendo Switch, is during the Wii U console, which was the previous console cycle, they straight up said, we're working on the future. This is what we're trying to just sketch out. And it got people hyped because people are curious where we're going to be playing, what it's going to look like. Nintendo, I think it may be time to maybe at least acknowledge the next Nintendo Switch, the Switch 2.
Yeah, and even if they announce a Nintendo Switch 2 for whatever god-awful reason, you would still complain about that too. Oh, they didn't show us any launch games. They didn't show us any indie games that we could play on our Nintendo Switch 2. That's what you sound like right now. So them doing that wouldn't benefit them in the long run anyways, because the adoption rate of Nintendo Switches is gone nowhere but up. They're attaching it to literally any game that they have that's a first-party title. Animal Crossing, Super Smash Bros., even Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out. Did you forget that Breath of the Wild 2 is a thing that you can play on your Nintendo Switch? Oh, of course you did, because, you know, why complain about something that actually exists when you can just complain about things that apparently don't exist?
The next generation. Maybe if you at least told us you're not getting any games right now because there's going to be a bunch of new games soon. I think even that would at least stoke the fires of curiosity. Like, the fact that we have only seen 1 minute of detailed stuff about Breath of the Wild 2, it's been a year, folks. It has been a full year since we saw 60 seconds of Breath of the Wild 2. And since then, we haven't seen an extra title card. We haven't seen any more gameplay. We haven't even seen Nintendo come out on stage and just tip their hat.
Oh, well, look at it. He actually debunked me. Very nice. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that it's a game that's coming out on your Nintendo Switch. And making a sequel to Breath of the Wild, that's going to take an insanely long time. Unless you just like, unfinished products and then you like to pay for the upgrades later. Sure, I mean, then they could just rush out a game just for little old you. But that's a game that's coming out, and they don't have to show you anything during a partner showcase. That was literally the Nintendo Direct Mini. That was its focus. And it was miniature. What else do you really want from this? You're crying like a baby over games that you don't get to see or play for a long time.
Metroid Prime 4 is still a logo. What is going on? What?
Having quality assurance in your games doesn't mean that you're not working on them. It means you're trying to make the best possible product. Metroid Prime takes a lot of care, and if people remember Other M, that didn't exactly get the people going. I mean, it probably did for like 10 seconds, and then it slowly faded into obscurity, but you gotta take time with big titles like that.
I honestly don't even know what I'm going to title this video. The amazing disappointment with Nintendo Directs.
Nope, you just titled it That Nintendo Direct Mini Kinda Sucked. Which isn't true at all. I think it was perfectly fine. I didn't stay up to watch it, but I could have. I could have woke up early and seen it.
I'm just going to end this video right now because I can't even think of a happy way to end this. I love you guys a bunch. Honestly, I just needed to vent. I needed to just get this out of me because I want to talk about games. I want to talk about Nintendo. And at this point, the most hyped thing of the year for me personally is the PlayStation 5. Because at least that seems like it's going to be cool and futuristic and amazing.
I want you to look up the Wii U and how many third-party titles they actually had on that console. I think the number will shock you.
Right now, my Nintendo Switch, I'm just going to put it right back on the shelf because there is still just no reason to absolutely love this. And I'm still very disappointed to say that.
There's a reason that I don't watch Nintendo Directs, and that's usually because the Nintendo fanboys hype it up to have all of these things that they expect to be in it, only to have their expectations shattered. And this is a very clear case of that. This is a clear case of entitlement, and someone that wants to have something that was never promoted or promised in the first place. But, it is what it is ultimately, I guess. It's just another case of Dreamcast guy being a person that wants to desperately be a person that knows a little bit about everything, and he generally doesn't.
This is Dragon Ball Z, my very first introduction to the world of anime. And this is my cousin Dujon. I watched Dragon Ball at his house.
Growing up in the 90s means that you were only left with a couple of options to watch anime that had just never made it over to America. Those being either through bootleg VHS tapes, or if you could just catch it on TV if it were on early enough. And sometimes you didn't even catch it then. So a lot of the time, you were only seeing anime bits and pieces. Not even like a straight continuity thing unless you were just that avid of a fan. But then we got the invention known as the internet, which made it much easier. But again, as a 90s child, it was extremely hard to watch those shows because they were either on early in the morning or on late at night.
Sick! I didn't even know you had the merch.
I've got probably about 5 or 6 t-shirts.
What?
There's just something about it. That wasn't to me like the gateway to manga and anime.
Dragon Ball Z, back in the day, back in at least the mid-90s, was licensed and dubbed by Funimation, and it made its way onto USA Television, or as we just know it now, USA, or Law & Order TV. And so from there, you would actually see a lot of different Dragon Ball episodes, usually if you could catch them on the early morning, as well as with Sailor Moon, another show that would be another gateway to a lot of anime people, just if you happen to be into it. And I think that those are pretty much your basic starting points in what people would consider their very first intro to anime.
But this is also Dragon Ball Z.
Yes, the Mr. Popo controversy. So if you've either been living under a rock or you need a refresher, here's this from the Dragon Ball fandom wiki that they've put together. It says, to some, Mr. Popo is claimed to be a variant of darky iconography, a racist style of caricature. On March 4th, 2000, an article written by children's book author Carol Boston Weatherford claimed that Mr. Popo, along with Pokemon number 124, Jinx, were derogatory stereotypes because of their black skin, big lips, and for Mr. Popo, lack of teeth. In 2004, Viz Media began to downsize Mr. Popo's lips digitally in the American release of the Dragon Ball manga. As for the Pokemon franchise gained international fame, the Pokemon Company also began recoloring Jinx's face and hands to appear purple and not black.
The first time I ever saw Mr. Popo, I remember just thinking, but why do he look like that? I think that was actually my first introduction to what Gollywog was.
And this is quite a common portrayal of black people in anime.
For starters, you have the word gollywog spelled incorrectly because there is no Y, it's replaced with an I actually. Sometimes it can be spelled with two G's, or it can just be simply called a golly with a Y, but not this way. But also, that was something that was very popular back in the day, a product of its time, especially with Cyborg 008, the example that you used here. He is one of the protagonists in Cyborg 009, a very old anime that stemmed from the late 1960s, and of course, it was a product of post-World War II era Japan. Those are racist depictions, and there's no doubt about it, but anime right now, especially in current year, is not racist. In fact, I would argue against that every step of the way, myself being African American. Warner Brothers, one of the prominent studios that made some of those racist cartoons, even puts their own statement. The cartoons you're about to see are products of their time. They may depict some of the ethnic and racial prejudices that were commonplace in American society. These depictions were wrong then and are wrong today. While the following does not represent the Warner Brothers' views of today's society, these cartoons are being presented as they were originally created, because to do so otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed. People now in the anime community, whether you want to believe it or not, are not racist people. And sure, you could probably cherry pick some of those comments off of social media like you do with Twitter, but I will always stand by the fact that there are not really racist people. And if it is, then sure, it's restricted to that one person, not the majority.
And yet, anime has a big black fanbase.
It's funny that you use this picture to show off how many black people are into anime, but you stole that one from my Twitter, where I actually posted it. And it was a picture that I took at Anime Weekend Atlanta. I don't know why you didn't choose to credit me or ask me if this was okay, but, you know, to each their own. I guess you guys just really don't want to have to ask people to use something that would fit your narrative.
A lot of people seem to kind of think that racism doesn't exist in Japan, and of course that's not true.
To be a fan is to...
You're using this video out of context, and it really does show. In the video that was released by NHK, sure, you can call it racist. I mean, it could probably be, according to some people. But what it was is about the coronavirus and how it affected black Americans. It was more from an American standpoint, where you could see how blacks were affected, how they have less than 7 times the wealth of a white person. That was the essence of the video. There wasn't really any looting going on, but even if we did, let's not forget that there are things happening right now in current America that involve rioting and looting, but there are also peaceful protests. I think that that's a really strong statement to put into a video, but again, this is from me on the outside looking in, but you took this out of context.
Be cheering in one scene and like hiding your head the next.
Why is that? If we have black characters in anime, sure, that's a one-up, but it's not something that I truly need for validation in my current skin. I don't need to look at anime and say, man, this is actually kind of racist. There's not a lot of black characters, or the ones that they put in there, well, they're not black enough. What is the definition of black enough for you? Do they have to have an afro? Do they have to have black slang? Do they have to use ebonics? Because if that's the case, then that's pretty racist on its own. That's fucking stupid. When I look back at a video that I did near the beginning of my YouTube career, it was called Neo Yokio is Awful Rant, and in it, the comments are still there, where people called me racist because I thought that the main character was black and that's not a good thing, when none of my argument was ever presented as such. It was always the art direction, the voice acting, it was the animation with missing frames. There were people with no mouths. It was something that had literally zero quality. But of course, they accused me of hating it because I was racist, despite the fact that I am also black myself. Just because I don't like something that has a black main character doesn't make me racist. And of course, there were people that were replying, why does every black male have to be masculine? Why can't they just be something different? Well, the answer to that is because when they do something different, you turn around and complain about it on twitter.com, where you start asking, why are there so many nerdy black people? Why are there so many twink-looking black people when you were championing for something just like this? I'm not going to dwell on this picture too much, but let's go ahead and throw this out here really quick. Piccolo's not black. Also, Yoruichi is a really good character in Bleach. She's actually one of the best well-written characters. She doesn't have the stereotypical black lips that you're looking for. She just looks like a character. Also, from The Promised Neverland, you can see that there's a character there with the hair. She's a really good, well-written character as well. I think that you have a problem with good characters, or maybe they're just not living up to your standards of what a black character should be.
First of all, let's get something straight. I'm definitely not here to cancel anime, but as a black fan, I am here to say enough with the racism.
What racism is there exactly? The ones where there are virtually no black people, or the ones where they don't draw them to your standards? You do know that in anime, everybody gets made fun of. American white people also get made fun of the same way that the actual Japanese people do. I would say that black people are actually treated with a lot of care in anime. In fact, in the anime Magical Shopping Arcade Abenobashi, there's actually a depiction of a white American where he's being loud and obnoxious and saying the F word a lot. And he has cheerleaders, and some of them aren't all pretty. So is that racist against the white people, or is it just poking fun because it's all satire? You be the judge of that.
One of my favorite anime shows is Durarara, but the Black Russian is a problem.
But why is he a problem? Because of the way that he's drawn? Because he looks like just a black person to me. I really don't put that much value into how big their lips have to be. That sounds pretty racist if you start doing that. But also, he's a well-written character. He's not just, throwaway random black person who's, doing a certain thing. In fact, the character, Black Russian, by his real name, Simon Brezhnev, is actually an African-American male that was born in Russia, raised by American parents, which is why he has the linguistics that he does. That's why he uses the slang that he does. And also, he is one of the strongest men in Ikebukuro, which means that he's a really well-drawn character with a lot of motivation and a lot of presence in the world of Durarara? Yeah, it's always going to be hard for me to say. But yeah, he's one of the strongest characters, one of the strongest men in Ikebukuro. But again, you don't like him because of how he's drawn. His lips aren't even exaggerated like that, and plus he stands out because, of course, he is African-American, or African-Russian, because, that's how you distinguish people, is by facial features. If they just threw a black paint on this dude, if he was Asian, then you'd be crying that it was blackface.
For the love of God, redraw him.
Yeah, Japanese animators that spend all of your time making this adaptation, go back to the drawing board and make him specifically how I said that you should make him. That'll show those fucking racists.
Sister Crone in Promised Neverland, they lean on that minstrel look, huge lips, bulging eyes, and it's disgusting.
I feel like you don't know enough about Sister Crone, but for those of you that probably do, Sister Crone was initially a supporting character and one of the minor antagonists in the series. So her normal look, which looks like this, is actually very nice. I think it's a great character design. The ones that you showed in this cherry-picked argument was something where she was doing evil or devilish acts. She's not a good person. And even when it comes to the other characters that are doing something very evil, they also have the same kind of exaggerated features. So it's something where you're trying to pick and choose, but of course, if we tried to relate how Japanese people look and how black people look, even to how white people look, it all simply boils down to genetics. But most of the research that I was able to find from anywhere from 2017 and forward are about how it's not helping the race equality between everyone, when that's literally how it is. A white person will look totally different based off genetics from a black person.
And it hurts because it's so glaring that it is anti-black that it almost ruins the entire thing for me.
How is anime anti-black? Are there people just sitting around saying, oh, well, nope, sorry, black people can't watch this show. There's not enough black people in it, or we didn't hit the quota. So what do you mean by anti-black?
I mean, even One Punch Man has Black Luster, who, aka Super Alloy Darkshine. I mean, it is very racist.
The one thing that you forget to mention in One Punch Man is that Darkshine, a character that is actually not African American, or black in any regard, is actually just a Japanese man who just used a lot of tanning oil. But again, he is one of the strongest heroes in the city. So if you find it racist, I mean, I guess that's fine, but it's literally not. In fact, Darkshine is one of the strongest characters, and you leave out that context, and I think that when you look at things in context, it would make a little bit more sense. Darkshine is literally being shown to have the greatest moral compass, so I guess being a black man that does what's right is bad? Question mark?
And it's funny because I was getting into the show and I was like, I just said, okay, we're going to ignore that episode. But unfortunately, that's something that black folks again and again have to do.
Fellas, is it racist to put oil onto your body or be a bodybuilder? Especially if you're black? Is it also racist? You do know that bodybuilders are a thing, right? And not just the black ones. White people look like they're a little bit darker too because of the oil.
If we want to be fans of something and we don't want to cancel the entire genre, we have to pick and choose our fights.
But why does anime get blackness so badly wrong? To try and understand what's going on here, especially with a lot of the older shows, we need to think about this in context.
That's kind of rich considering that you've taken mostly everything in this video out of context.
They're looking at us through the lens of American media, American television.
Well, yeah, because they don't live in America. Everything that they see is through the media that we consume, because now the internet has made all of those things widely available. And also, I guess that it's racist to have a black woman on the cover of breakfast products. Aunt Jemima is literally not even racist.
There were no images of black people in animation outside of Disney and Warner Brothers animation in the 40s and 50s, and those images of us were very racist.
They were racist, and we've moved on from that racism. But the only way to learn that it was actually bad is to keep everything in the entire presentation as it were originally intended. That's why I read the statement earlier from Warner Brothers. We shouldn't be erasing American history to appease the crybabies.
I would direct your attention to the Jungle Book.
Well, what was racist about that? Or are you being racist by assuming that the black people are actually the monkeys and they want to be just like humans? It's literally the Jungle Book. None of them have races except for the main character.
These references range from the grossly offensive.
It's always interesting to me whenever we bring up Jinx in any topic that has to deal with race in anime, especially since it was already kind of just pointed to the Ganguro girl fashion that they had in Japan, and it's still very much prevalent. You can go there and still see very much many examples of it. It just exists, and it's not racist. It's literally just a fashion statement. And so because Pokemon decided to adapt that into a Pokemon for, the various reasons that they adapt anything, is because it was something that was a reflection of the current world around them. Something that the creator had seen in the world in his own lens. But it was in no way intentionally meant to be racist. But unfortunately, they changed Jinx's color over to purple, so I guess we have that to look forward to from now on.
To the unhelpfully reductive.
Coffee from Cowboy Bebop. She's a blaxploitation character. She's basically Foxy Brown, but on Mars.
Blaxploitation movies, a group of films made mainly in the early to mid 1970s that featured black actors in a transparent effort to appeal to black urban audiences. Junius Griffin, then president of the Beverly Hills chapter of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, is sometimes credited with inventing the somewhat ambiguous term blaxploitation to describe the short-lived genre. There are a lot of blaxploitation films that defined the entire genre, such as Dolomite, Shaft, and even Cleopatra Jones. Those are the ones that would give black actors a chance to star in their own movies and appeal to the black audiences that would go to watch. So are we going to say that blaxploitation films are bad because anime has pretty much adapted something that used to be really popular in the 1970s? And I guess now it's bad because it's in anime?
Some argue that since anime is largely created for a domestic Japanese audience, creators can't be expected to respectfully represent racial diversity, because Japan is not a particularly racially diverse country.
Well, yeah, that's because it's true. In Japan, it is 97.8% Japanese people, and that's across all of Japan. The other numbers that you see here, or the ones that you'll see somewhere else, are mainly consistent of the Korean people or Chinese people that migrate to the country for work. And then the other small percentage is of the residents that come from white people and black people, which make up only about 25,000 of those people if you're African American. And unlike France, you can actually just see the number of residents, not the actual number of people that just happen to be there or visit.
But these excuses don't hold water.
This isn't a case of ignorance. There's nowhere on the planet where people haven't seen a black person.
Well, fortunately for you, you happen to live in the UK, which is pretty good to black people, if I do say so myself. Here in America, we have a little bit of systemic racism. I think that there's still some pockets in there, but for the most part, black people are doing A-okay. But if you go to somewhere like China, for example, then you get erased. They do not like black people in China. I think that you should be thrilled to death that you even live in a place like the UK, or even in my case America, where we actually have rights. Whereas in China, they get evicted from their homes without second thought. They get treated worse than second-class citizens, and they get stripped from any media that is ever marketed to them. Look at the case of Star Wars. They removed Finn because you can't sell the Chinese black people.
You can't just say it's like a thing without agency. It's not just like, oh, well, it was an accident happened. It's like a conscious choice that people make.
When we argue about racism in anime, people are like, well, it's Japan. It's not here. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, with such a low population of 25,000 African Americans in Japan, I don't think that this company that is mostly consistent of Japanese people, or even if we wanted to go to the lengths of Korean and Chinese people, and their demographic is Japanese people, they don't have to put black people into their anime.
And what they don't realize is on a global scale, it is the same thing because it's all over the world.
Do you know what else was all over the world? Coronavirus. So should only white people get it? Or should black people get it too? I mean, I'm not understanding what your point is here about something being global. You know, TikTok is global, but it's technically Chinese spyware. Is that different?
And it's not just anime shows themselves that are problematic.
A large amount of anime fans, I'm not saying all of them, but like it is a lot of them out there, hate when other people who don't look like them come into the fandom.
It was really only very recently that I talked about being an anime fan online, because I don't like having those conversations day in, day out. I think where I see it the most is from my friends who cosplay. They'll get told, you can't cosplay that character because you're black.
A thing that you may not understand about Twitter.com is that these people got ratioed, and not a lot of people agreed with them. And on Instagram, I'm pretty sure there's a report function, and that doesn't represent even a majority. That doesn't even represent 10% of the anime fans that you're trying to bring up here as being racist in the fandom. If black people didn't belong in the fandom of anime, then they wouldn't be going to anime conventions, and you wouldn't be stealing my fucking pictures for your stupid bullshit narrative. Black people are allowed to watch anime just like any other ethnicity is allowed to. It has never been gatekeeping anyone based off of their skin color. It may be based off of them being a shithead. If they're trying to insert politics or something stupid into it where it doesn't belong, then yes, I agree, they should probably be gatekept. But no one's ever said, you're black, you don't have an opinion, and if it is, it's one or two fucking retards. I know I'm not supposed to say those words, but I don't even care at this point. I'm very passionate about people like you making it up to be as though black people are always oppressed about something. If I were really oppressed, I couldn't watch anime, I could never make videos on YouTube, I couldn't do anything according to you. But you guys sit here, being journalists of something, critics of things, and you say something that is blatantly untrue. And you sit here and spin it as the narrative. You say that, oh, well, you know, it's a lot of anime fans that are pretty racist, am I right? And it's just enough. No, it's not really hardly any. It's one or two people. And do you know what those one or two people do? they don't go anywhere. They sit at home, they twiddle their thumbs, and they have no friends. Because all of the real anime fans, guess where they are? They're out having fun with their friends. They're talking online with everyone else. They're having fun at anime conventions where they can cosplay as literally anything. You're going to cherry pick some more comments here, and you're going to talk about how black cosplayers aren't accepted. But I literally saw the cutest cosplays from a lot of black people. But of course, we're in the toxic majority, according to you.
I've been called slurs. I've been called a fake fan. I've been called many names, or you only like it because Megan Thee Stallion likes it, or you don't know any anime.
Those are not exclusive to your race. Those can be literally applied to anybody. Mexican people, white people, black people, German people. It really doesn't fucking matter. I think that you're using something to try to say, oh, well, it's only directed at black people and never the white people. I don't think you've ever been in an Xbox 360 lobby of Call of Duty where white people literally call each other the N-word.
It's a lot.
So if being a black fan of anime subjects you to this much racism, then why do we love it so much?
I hate X, but I also love X. I love this 4th grade writing that we keep doing whenever it's talking about anime.
There's no one answer. For me, the fact that I didn't have to engage with Western politics and I could look at something else for once and learn about something else. And also just because these things are cool.
You just explained literally the reason why people like anime. They don't want Western politics in their shows, unless you're going there for politics, but they do it because it's cool. Anime is a fun, and it's a very inclusive, dare I use the word, hobby that people really enjoy. They get to bond with their friends and talk about what happened on last week's episode because that's fun. But again, this isn't mutually exclusive to race.
In a lot of anime that I'm familiar with, like there's usually some layer of prejudice against the hero. Like some people doubt them, some people think they can't achieve it, or just that they're hated.
That's almost literally any form of media. It's usually the hero, the rising of the hero. He's beaten down at the beginning, or he's treated unfairly, or there's a set of circumstances against him. And throughout the story, he's going to rise to the occasion. He's going to learn a lot about the world around him and learn to hone his skills or abilities. And that's literally every story that has almost ever existed in anime in some regard, even if it's a slice of life where the character has to learn to grow and, you know, understand and realize that they're not going to be able to see their friends anymore in the same school setting and they have to move on with their lives. Those are things and themes that happen in anime. They're not, again, I don't know why this has to be about black people.
So Naruto, for example, he's treated poorly for a large part of his life, but he still rises to the occasion and perseveres to become Hokage one day.
You know that context really matters here. The reason that Naruto is shunned is because he was pretty much the sealed form of the nine-tailed fox, and that's how the last Hokage had died. So he was seen as almost like a bastard child by everyone in the village, as a good-for-nothing that was only pretty much riding off of the wave of him being the part of the nine-tailed fox. But after honing his skills and abilities, he's able to start saving the village that, despite not loving him, he loved it. And that's why he became such a good character. But again, context, you know, blah, blah, blah.
I think that's the problem. I mean, like, there's tons of characters like that who face that in their journeys. I think it resonates with me as a Black woman because it is just something where, like, existing in itself can be a challenge. Existing in a world that does not want to accept us is challenging.
I'm not going to go ahead and try to split hairs here, but I think America accepts you. You can live in America. You can buy a car. You could buy a house. You can go to the bank as a black person. In China, you really just get evicted and then you probably get murdered on the spot.
I love Kurosawa films and things like that, and a lot of the anime followed those storylines. There's let me walk the earth like Cain and avenge the death of my master.
You know, I was gonna make a joke, and you know what? Fuck it, I'll make it. Why would you want to avenge your master? That sounds pretty racist, bro.
There's a lot of parallels here with black people's affection for kung fu films, but that's another video.
Do you think it's because the kung fu films are badass? Because that was a good video. This one's a piece of shit.
It's a really interesting thing now that I think everybody is sort of kind of coming out and going, yeah, I've been a fan of this for years. if they're over the age of 35, they're going to remember getting bootleg VHS, or friends got them and dubbed them and passed them around. And that's why the Black anime audience is older. People think, oh, now Black people like it too. No, we've been here.
Who said that Black people didn't like anime before this? I mean, sure, it was predominantly a white people thing for a while, but Black people were into it too. Even when I was a kid, a lot of the Black kids that I associated with, they were so into Dragon Ball, they would go anywhere that they could find Dragon Ball news, from magazines, or, you know, when the internet age came to be a thing, they finally were able to start looking up everything that was Japanese about Dragon Ball Z, and they were pumped to do so. Now it's a everyone thing, because no one was ever just not into a thing, I guess, but according to you, that's the case.
Anime references in Black culture goes back decades, especially in hip-hop.
That is why there's so much of an anime influence in Boondocks. Aaron McGruder, he was clearly a fan.
Aaron McGruder was so much of a fan that he did reference a lot of stuff from anime, or even Japanese films in general, and that's why he has the style that he does. And he was responsible for at least the first 2 seasons, I think even maybe season 3, and those were like the greatest seasons of the Boondocks in my opinion. And near the end it started to get a little weird because they didn't have him on board, but now it seems like a lot of the people that are upsetty spaghetti at the Boondocks want it censored. That's why recently Adult Swim came out and said that they're removing certain episodes from rotation from the Boondocks and Aqua Teen Hunger Force, to name a few, where it would eliminate those problematic scenes, which is a Black man's work. So now we can't have anything that's made by a Black person, because it's probably offending the white people who are offended on behalf of the Black people.
LaShawn Thomas, who was also one of the people who worked on that show, he went on to actually move out to Japan and work on anime on his own, and he created Cannon Busters that came out last year.
It appears that Cannon Busters, an anime that was exclusive to Netflix, had a 100% certified fresh by Rotten Tomatoes, but that was only for the scores of the critics. However, the audience gave it about a 67%, and the reason being was that the characters, while well designed and the animations were kind of shoddy at best, the story was just terrible. The plot was bad and there was zero character development, and people dropped it.
LaShawn Thomas was also one of the storyboard animation production artists on Avatar: The Legend of Korra.
And I'm betting now he probably wants to scrub that from his LinkedIn, because when you look at The Legend of Korra, again, it had nothing to do with African American talent or representation in the show. It was bad because they literally wrote Korra to be this weird Mary Sue for some reason. Also, you spelled Korra wrong.
And he's part of a small but growing number of Black people involved in the production of anime. In the US, there's Saturday AM magazine that features manga from a whole host of diverse artists.
Diverse artists. Literally, the only people you show here are Black people.
And then there's Noir Caesar, a Black-run company which has diversity and representation as its mission statement.
Sure, go ahead, knock yourselves out, I guess.
They're currently adapting some of their manga into anime shows.
I will say that there are creators out there who are fixing it. Black-owned studios, like stationed in Japan. There's also shows like Carol and Tuesday that have great representation for Black characters.
Yes, the great representation in Carol and Tuesday. I'm glad it gave us this great meme material. I think you might be onto something.
So I do have a lot of hope, but I will say it's like by creator.
There's so many things that we've accepted for so long because we were just so happy to be included at all. We can ask for more, you know? And I think that's what a lot of fans are doing.
No, a lot of people really aren't doing the thing that you think that they are. I mean, it's good that we can get more if we can, but it's not a thing that makes or breaks anything. In fact, I think that people are pretty okay with the fact that they don't have to see themselves represented on screen. Not every white person is going to identify with a white person. Maybe they might identify more with a Black person. Who fucking knows?
You'll have more folks who are like, I would like to be in a space where I'm not feeling so entirely alone. There are so many people like myself who are interested in this sort of thing. It's not just like a white fascination. It's like a thing that a lot of people share in and enjoy.
Yes, there are a lot of black cosplayers. There are a lot of black AniTuber channels where people go over the things that they like. And obviously I haven't covered all of them because it's just really hard to do. But when you look at the overwhelming amount of people that are into anime, you'd be surprised that a lot of black people really love it. And unfortunately, I was a little hard on our good friend Link. God, I'll still never get over the PTSD that I've been doing the thing. Okay, anyways, but yeah, there's nothing quite like that to really get the people going.
I've got lifelong friends just off the back of the fact that we geeked out together. I love anime. Like, I do. I love it.
There's spaces that are like advertised as just like, look, if you're black and you're into this stuff, then like come on down. It will be, you know, in a convention hall somewhere in the States.
Yeah, I know, because I've seen them on the floor, and you took the picture that I took of them on the floor and used it in this video for no other reason other than to, you know, fit a narrative.
We feel encouraged to make a space where fans like us can feel welcomed and no one feels excluded. It's really about a community and being able to enjoy it together.
I hope you mean the anime community, because if you wanted a black-only space for anime fans, that kind of seems a little racist, if you don't mind me saying. So, for my final rant here, I think that this video is very ill-informed. It is very stupid. Let's just keep it real here. It is a video that tries to explain how racist anime is and how we're not trying to cancel it, but at the same time you want it catered specifically to you. You want characters drawn your way. You want black characters to be drawn the way that you want them to be drawn, but not by the original creator's own vision. And that's where the problem really arises. It's something where if you have something that you're passionate about, sure, you can voice your displeasure, but don't have other people suffer because you want it to be a statement. You want people to say that this is racist and we need to get it out of here, when anime is just blatantly not. It is not racist at all. In fact, they are usually products of their time. Like I said earlier, cartoons that were made in the 1950s all the way up to maybe even the 1970s were still pretty racist. But we have to move on from that. We have to learn from our past, lest we're doomed to repeat it. And at this point, I think that we have as much inclusivity, like I said, dare I say the word, we have as much inclusivity now as I think that we've ever had before. Anime fans shouldn't feel left out because a character's skin color isn't exactly like theirs, or that they may look like a caricature, when literally every character in an anime is a caricature of something. I don't understand why we have to try to outdo the people for this. I don't know why this has to be an ongoing topic, that anime is racist and we need to change it. We always bring up Jinx as an example. We're bringing up One Punch Man's character, Black Shine or Dark Shine. I should learn his name. But you get my point. It doesn't really matter. The whole thing is that anime is not racist. If anime was racist, no black people would show up to anime conventions. You even put the videos of them enjoying it.